Hi family and family. Yes, it's me, the Rottweiler guy. I've been crazy busy these past few weeks starting this channel. And I'm sure you can guess what else. Yep, that's right. Taking care of my fur babies. Well, I'm just their godfather. But for now these gorgeous little guys are mine. For about 8 weeks anyway. So, recently while giving the Munchkins their 2-week dewormer, I stopped for a break and saw a post of a fellow breeder in one of the Rotty Facebook groups. She just lost a pup to parvo. 2 actually got the nasty ailment, and 1 survived. As you can guess, she was devastated and questioning everything. That got me to thinking that discussing this with all of you would really be helpful. So, let's get started. I know death is not easy to talk about. For a lot of us, our fur babies are just that, our babies. They are our family, they are like our children, and if you have never had kids, they are literally your children. So talking about death of your best friend and perfect companion is unthinkable. But it has to be discussed so that you and your family can protect them, just as they will protect you. They are defenseless and vulnerable. And by knowing the facts, you can have them around as part of your family to love on, for many years to come. Now, understand, of the many ways your pet can die. Arguably the deadliest of all, especially to Rottweilers, is the canine parvovirus. So, what is the parvovirus? It is typically just called parvo, and it is a sneaky virus that can attack your pup or your dog in some of the most unassuming places. Like your backyard, or your neighbors, your shoes, or the flooring of your home, the dog park you frequent, and any nationwide rest area. In fact, there is almost no place your dog can't get parvo, because it is a virus like any other, and can be carried from place to place, on the bottom of your shoes, on your hands, your clothes, even on other pets. I know what you're thinking. If nowhere is safe, how in the world can I protect my baby? Be patient with me for a few more moments. We'll get there. But let me continue presenting a few more facts first, so that you truly understand the insidious nature of this virus. Of medium to large dogs, Rottweilers are extremely powerful. They have much greater strength in comparison to the American Pit Bull, which are very strong dogs themselves. Comparative studies have shown that a Rottweiler can take down a pit bull when using all of its strength. However, Rottweilers are not aggressive dogs by nature. They are naturally much less aggressive than the pit bull. However, it is very important to understand that any dog is aggressive if it is trained to be so. The owner, or trainer, dictates the behavior of its pet. Dogs are trained through treatment. Therefore, how you treat the dog teaches the dog and dictates their behavior. Why did I mention the strength of a Rottweiler? So that I can contrast its humble beginnings. The Rottweiler is one of the strongest dogs in its weight class. However, at birth, it has one of the weakest immune systems of any other dog of similar size. So the Rotty, literally, goes from being one of the weakest dogs that must be diligently protected by its owners, to one of the strongest, most fearless, and loyal dogs known to man. This is why the Romans used the Rotty's direct ancestors, drover dogs, during times of war, to protect their livestock, their valuables, and their families. But it is the weak immune system of a young Rotty that makes it extremely vulnerable to parvo. Now, don't get me wrong, parvo kills many dogs, but for Rotties, it's a silent, typically quick, sure sign of death during the Rotty's first few months of life. Am I trying to scare you? Absolutely. Fear of your Rotty pup contracting parvo is a must. If you are going to protect your baby, having a lackadaisical attitude about it is a surefire way to end up with a dead Rotty. And I don't want that, and neither do you. Here are some things I always tell my customers. 1. If there are other older dogs in your house and you are unsure whether they may have been exposed to parvo at a park, neighbor's home, friend's house, or in the backyard, you may want to keep the 2 dogs apart for the first 10 days after you take your fur baby home. This is because an exposed dog begins to shed the virus about 3 days before showing signs of exposure and continues to shed that virus for 10 days after being clinically cured. An infected dog can even continue to spread the virus for a month after showing signs of exposure. This means it is in the dog's feces, urine, and saliva. 2. If an older dog contracts the parvovirus, he typically will only show mild symptoms. This is because as the dog ages, his immune system builds and becomes stronger. And being exposed to the virus actually builds the dog's immunity to it. Pups, however, do not have this built-up immunity and must be sheltered from it. 3. The parvovirus is highly contagious. Your puppy is exposed to it every time he sniffs, he licks, or consumes infected feces. Again, sniffing the poop will even expose your pup and cause him to become infected. 4. Because of the infectious nature of parvo. People unknowingly spread the virus to other dogs after being in contact with an infected dog simply by touching them. Therefore, if you rub a dog that has been infected and is shedding the virus, then go home, or a friend's home, and rub their dog, or one of your own. You've exposed the pup to parvo and potentially created a life-threatening situation. Okay. Now I hope you get the insidiousness of this virus. It seemingly comes out of nowhere and can have deadly consequences. The treatment for parvo must be continual once it is contracted, and costs upwards of $2,000. If the pup becomes so severely infected that he must be admitted and treated overnight or several days by a vet, the price is much more. Let me tell you a brief story. I have a friend who is a breeder who has 3 beautiful granddaughters. The oldest is 6 years old. Their mother took the kids to the zoo. This breeder promised his granddaughters a pup when the oldest became 6 years old because he could really teach her about pups and taking care of them. When they returned from the zoo, they stopped by his house and picked out their pup. The pups were walking, but they weren't quite old enough to be rehomed. About 2 days after the girls left, he noticed the pups just didn't seem as active and weren't eating as they normally would. He became concerned but not worried. He decided to give the pups some chicken broth and rice. Some ate a little but threw the food up. Others ate, but when he examined their poop shortly after, there was blood in it. He immediately took them to the vet. The pups were exposed to parvo. Now, he had been with the pups since birth. And in the 2 days since the granddaughters had left, he'd basically kept his same routine, both he and his wife. When the vet told him to sit down and contact Trace, who'd come over, the only folks to visit were the grandchildren and their mother. He had no idea at the time they had been to the zoo. Long story short, his entire litter ended up passing away, which included the pup he'd promised his granddaughters. This is one of the many reasons I don't allow anyone to visit or view my pups before they are at least 7 weeks old. And, to be honest, I don't like even allowing visitors at 7 weeks. And do all I can to avoid it. Pups should have their first parvo shot at 6 weeks. Nothing is worse for a breeder than watching a full litter die. It's heartbreaking, and I will do anything to prevent that from happening, even if it means losing a sale. My pups mean the absolute world to me. If I had 20 acres, I would keep a lot more than I do. My kids and grandkids love them. And, like I always say, all money ain't good money. Bottom line. I could go on and on about the dangers and just how tricky and dangerous parvo really is. I hope with what I have tried my best to explain, you understand how fragile your fur baby is. They are babies, and just like bringing an infant home, there are things you wouldn't expose your baby to and you shouldn't expose your pup to. Remember, you are their lifeline. They cannot develop fully and have a happy life without you. So, let's discuss prevention. Vaccinations are essential. Statistically, the mortality rate of adult dogs that contract parvo is 10%, and 91% in pups. But if a pup has not been vaccinated, that rate is 100%. Yes, the rate is still high even with the tri-weekly vaccinations. But not doing so is too deadly to risk. Parvo attacks the dog's intestinal tract, causing the dog not to retain vital nutrients or stay hydrated. Remember, one of the symptoms of parvo is vomiting and poor appetite. Parvo shots should be given every 3 weeks starting at 6 weeks old and continue until pups are 18 weeks of age. Then once every 3 years, or at the advisement of your vet. Your pup has a better chance of fighting parvo at 6 months old. Once the dog reaches 1 year old, they should be strong enough to fight the infection with just mild assistance from you. Next, you should also limit exposure to unvaccinated dogs. This one is tough, but do all you can to try. Remember the contagious nature of the virus, which makes this essential. Whatever you have to do. I would also keep my dog close when in public. Because dogs put everything in their mouths and you don't know where others' hands have been. That brings me to the next one. Limit your exposure to other dogs as well. God forbid you come home with the deadly virus with you. My last recommendation is, clean and sanitize your home before you bring your new pup into it. Especially if you have other pets in the home. Your floors, remember the parvovirus can affect any dog, not just a Rottie. So thoroughly clean your floor and baseboards, make sure there is nothing on the floor that a Rottie puppy can chew on, you know they find anything. That may include under and behind the sofas and beds. You are basically puppy-proofing your home. I have already gone over my time limit with this one, so I can't go into as much detail as I would like, but I may do a whole nother spill on how to puppy-proof. But until then, this is the Rottweiler Guy, signing off, with a big 10-4. Peace. Hey, I know I'm over my time. I just wanted to remind you to like, share, and hit subscribe. And turn on notifications so you're notified when I post something new. Also, follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Executive Kennels. And you can shoot me an email if you have any questions or suggestions at 252rottweilerguy@gmail.com or pups@executivekennels.com. Rottweiler Guy signing out. 10-4.